Chief Executive Officer Nvidia Jensen Huang menyatakan bahwa China tidak tertinggal dalam pengembangan kecerdasan buatan. Bahkan, Huang menyebut Huawei sebagai salah satu perusahaan teknologi paling tangguh di dunia. Dalam konferensi teknologi di Washington DC, Rabu waktu setempat, Huang mengatakan bahwa selisih antara China dan Amerika Serikat dalam AI. Huawei sendiri, meski masuk daftar hitam perdagangan AS, tengah mengembangkan chip AI buatan sendiri untuk pasar domestik China. Huang menilai Huawei telah membuat kemajuan luar biasa dalam beberapa tahun terakhir. Pernyataan Huang datang di tengah meningkatnya ketegangan perdagangan antara AS dan China. Pemerintahan Trump baru-baru ini membatasi ekspor chip AI Nvidia H20 ke China tanpa lisensi khusus, membuat Nvidia harus menelan potensi kerugian hingga 5,5 miliar dolar AS. Sebagai produsen chip GPU terbesar di dunia, Nvidia memainkan peran kunci dalam kemajuan teknologi AI. Namun, kini mereka menghadapi tantangan berat mulai dari tarif hingga regulasi yang membatasi ekspor ke luar negeri. Nvidia telah memperingatkan bahwa pembatasan ekspor chip bisa mengancam posisi dominan teknologi Amerika Serikat di kancah global. Tahun lalu, Huang juga menyebut bahwa Uni Eropa tertinggal dari AS dan China dalam hal investasi AI. Ia menyerukan percepatan, sembari menegaskan bahwa data kini telah menjadi sumber daya nasional yang sangat krusial. Sementara itu, lembaga pemikir Huawei Institution mengungkapkan bahwa China telah membangun ekosistem talenta AI lokal yang kuat. Studi terhadap perusahaan riset seperti DeepSeek menunjukkan bahwa mayoritas peneliti mereka dididik dan dilatih di China, lalu kembali setelah berpengalaman di AS, memperkuat ekosistem AI nasional. Dengan talenta lokal yang solid dan investasi besar-besaran, China tampaknya semakin siap menantang dominasi teknologi Amerika di era kecerdasan buatan. Berikut pernyataan Jensen Huang di depan Presiden AS Donald Trump dan diskusi teknologi di Washington DC.
China's right behind us. I mean, we're very, very close. But remember, this is a long-term. This is an infinite race. There's no, in the world of life, there's no 2-minute end of the quarter. There's no such thing, and so we're going to compete for a long time. And just remember that this is a country with great will, and they have great technical capabilities. 50% of the world's AI researchers are Chinese, and so this is an industry that we.
Great genius. Tim Cook from Apple is pledging, not only pledging, is committed to $500 billion. They're going to build plants all over the country, 7 or 8 different states. They've already started. And so I want to thank Tim. That's such a big investment for somebody that, had them pretty much in one location, as you know. Now they're coming into the United States, I believe, because of the spirit and the tariffs and the incentives. So that's Apple for $500 billion. And one of the most brilliant men that you'll ever meet, the man that's done in a short period of time something that is incredible. He's the founder, CEO, and president of Nvidia Jensen Huang. He's producing up to $500 billion over the next 4 years to manufacture the most powerful AI chips entirely in the USA for the first time ever. Jensen, would you come up and say a few words? This is a smart cookie.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be here. Nvidia reinvented computing for the first time after 60 years. In fact, everyone at IBM knows quite well that the computer has largely been the same since the 60s. The IBM System 360 described really quite perfectly the computer that we use today. Central processing units, operating systems, the separation of hardware and software, I/O subsystems, multitasking. All of the words that we use to describe computers today were really invented in 1964, the year after my birth. Well, after all this time, we've reinvented computers again. This is what a processor looks like. It's on the right there. People say it's a GPU. That's one GPU unit, and it's 70 pounds, 60,000 parts, 10,000 watts. In order to manufacture it requires probably a couple of hundred companies in the supply chain. It is so heavy that it requires robotics to do. It's so precise. And just to test a supercomputer requires a supercomputer. And we're going to build NVIDIA's technology, the next generation of that, all here in the United States. Without the president's leadership, his policies, his support, and very importantly, his strong encouragement. And I mean his strong encouragement. Frankly, manufacturing in the United States wouldn't have accelerated to this pace. Manufacturing isn't about low-cost labor anymore. Manufacturing is about technology. And most of the factories that build these systems today are the most advanced factories in the future. And we're going to use artificial intelligence and robotics and omniverse digital twin technology to make it possible for us to create the factories of the future. And we ought to build it. We ought to build it right here. The really amazing thing is that this computer is the engine of a whole new industry. And this new industry is called artificial intelligence. And this new industry is a manufacturing industry in itself. That's a factory machine. Just as several hundred years ago, the dynamo was invented, water would come in and electricity would come out. Now electricity goes into this machine and incredible tokens come out, artificial intelligence. In order for this industry to thrive, we need to build these systems, of course, but we also need a progressive growth and industry-oriented energy policy, which this president has really put his weight behind. I really appreciate that. Without energy, we can't possibly have new growth industries. And we now have the backing of the administration, the backing of President Trump to support the creation of a whole new industry. This industry is going to enable a whole bunch of other industries. What we now call the AI infrastructure is going to revolutionize every industry that we know. All of the many CEOs in the room today are great partners of ours for that reason. We're working on artificial intelligence for many industries, from healthcare to drug discovery to life sciences, financial services, education, so many different industries. And that's going to be possible because we have the fundamental infrastructure here in the United States. And so I want to thank you, sir, for everything that you've done and the strong encouragement and the great policies that make it possible for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Jensen, welcome to the Hill and Valley Forum. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
You've positioned AI as a new industrial revolution with AI factories at the center of it. Can you explain to us what is an AI factory and why is it important to understand in the 21st century economy?
AI. Well, we've been talking a lot about AI over the last several years. It's multifaceted, and I think it's helpful to look at it in this lens. First, of course, AI is a new technology. It's a new technology in the sense that it's built differently than software of the past, and this new software can do things that software of the past could not do. And so it's incredible technology. All the things it can do, all the things that we have to do to keep it safe, all the amazing things that it's going to enable, fantastic. So there's the technology layer. The second layer, which is rather new, in the last technology industry, software production, it was done by humans typing. Now we have a new industry, and this software is produced with machinery. So you need a large supercomputer, you apply electricity to it, and what comes flying out of it are tokens. And these tokens could be reformulated into numbers and words and proteins and images and videos and three-dimensional structures, and you could reformulate these tokens into all kinds of things. We call it intelligence. And so this machinery looks different than the machinery of the past. And I call it an AI factory because it does one thing. Every single day it's producing tokens. And the layer above that is infrastructural. And this is the reason why we now internalize that AI is likely going to be quite an extraordinary industrial revolution, in the sense that this new technology is going to enable a new industry that I just mentioned, AI factories, the production of intelligence, but it's going to go back and revolutionize and transform every other industry. And so all of these tokens are going to go into healthcare and education. One of my favorites is education. I use it every day for education. financial services, engineering. We use AI every day for software programming and supply chain management. It's about to go into manufacturing and so on and so forth. And so when you think about it from these three layers, it's very clear this is as transformative, as impactful as electricity was before, and it's going to revolutionize every industry. So it's an industrial revolution.
So do you think it's a paradigm shift in modern computing, and that every factory that's building physical things in the real world will also be accompanied by an AI factory?
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Every company that makes things today, so long as they move, so let's say you make lawnmowers, and it could be Caterpillar, and or they build construction machinery. Today it's largely manually manipulated. In the future it'll be autonomous or highly autonomous or semi-autonomous or assisted. And when it becomes autonomous, then it'll be software defined. And so you're going to have to produce those tokens, those software that feeds that tractor. And so in the future, every company that builds things will have a factory that builds the things that they sell, and then they'll have another factory that builds and produces the AI that runs on that thing that they sell. And so it's very clear when you look at car companies. Today's car companies largely make cars, but it's very clear that in 10 years' time, every car company will also produce the tokens that runs in those cars.
You've talked a little bit about physical AI, the concept of physical AI over the last year. For policymakers who are thinking about the future of American policy, can you explain to us a little bit what physical AI is and how we should be thinking about it?
Take a step back. AI really came to consciousness, modern AI really came into consciousness about 12, 14 years ago when AlexNet came out and computer vision saw its big giant breakthrough. And that was, I guess, 2012. Around that time, when you take a step back, what is computer vision? In its largest context, it's perception. Perceiving the world, whatever modality of information. It could be, of course, images. It could be sounds. It could be vibration. It could be temperature. And we've now developed AI models that understand the meaning of all of that information, and can be quite smart about it. So the first layer, the first wave of AI was perception AI. The second, what everybody started talking about maybe 5 years ago, was generative AI. And generative AI is where the AI model has learned how to understand the meaning of the information, but translate it. So, for example, you could understand English and translate it to French. You could understand English and translate it to images. And so you could prompt it to generate images. So generative AI is essentially a universal translator, if you will. A universal translator that understands the language of humans. Language. And so that's the next wave. The wave that we're in now is where you now have AIs that can understand, it can generate, but as you know, intelligence requires us to solve problems and recognize conditions that we've never seen before. And the way we do that is we use reasoning. We apply rules and laws and principles that we've learned in the past, and we break the problem down step by step by step. And even though we've never solved this problem before, through reasoning, we can solve it. Okay, and so one of the unique capabilities of intelligence. And so we're now in this age called reasoning AI, and reasoning AIs allow you to produce a form of digital robots. We call them agentic AI, agents. It has agency. And so AI that can understand the task that's been given, it can go off and learn and read, use tools like calculators and web browsers and spreadsheets, and then come back and does something for you. And it could be something related to supply chain, so it accesses SAP. It could be something related to HR, access Workday. And so these agentic AIs are essentially robots, but they're digital workforce robots. And so in the future, we're going to be the generation of CEOs that are going to manage biological workforce as well as digital workforce. And HR department for the biological workforce, and our IT department are going to become the HR of agentic AI, right? And so we have this is kind of the phase we're in today. Well, the next wave, and this is where the largest industries of the world are going to benefit. The next wave requires us to understand things like the laws of physics, friction, inertia, cause and effect, the fact that I tip that thing over, it's going to fall. When I said the bottle down, it's not going to go through the table. And so all of these common sense physical reasoning abilities that children have, that our pets have, most AIs don't have. I roll a ball over the kitchen counter, and it goes up over the top, and it disappears. Well, the AI thinks it's disappeared, but your dog knows it's on the other side. It understands this concept called object permanence, and it didn't go into another metaverse, and so it runs around the table and gets it. And a robot needs to learn that if you want to go from this side of the table to that side of the table, you can't go through the table. You're going to have to reason about how to go around the table. And so all of these type of physical reasoning things is what's called physical AI. And when you take that physical AI and then you put it into a physical object called a robot, you get robotics. And this is really, really important for us now because we're building plants and factories all over the United States. And we'd like to build it in a way that takes advantage of the latest technologies. And so hopefully, in the next 10 years, as we build out this new generation of plants and factories, they're highly robotic and they're helping us deal with the severe labor shortage that we have all over the world.
So many people have talked about this concept about the fact that we're in an AI race globally. What do you think the U.S. government needs to do to win that AI race, to have the very best AI technology?
First, in order to have a race, to do well in a race, you have to understand the race. And you have to understand the resources that you're working with, the assets that you have, the assets you don't have, your advantages and your disadvantages. And some of the things to realize is that AI is fundamentally at this core level, and going back to the three levels that we're talking about, at each level, we have to make sure that we understand the game. And this game isn't, there's no 60-minute clock on this thing. This is an infinite game. And so most people aren't very good at playing infinite games. Nvidia is now 33 years old. We've been through 3 computer revolutions, from the PC revolution to the internet to mobile, and now we're in AI. And so you have to, in order to thrive across all of these different changes in the environment, you have to understand how to play games. And so the things that I just described, understanding the game, understanding the assets you have, really important. At the first layer, at the technology layer, the most important thing to understand is the intellectual capital. And remember, 50% of the world's AI researchers are Chinese. First, just take a step back and recognize that. That important factor has to play into how we think about the game. The next is AI factories. In order to do well there, you need to have energy. Because fundamentally, we transform electricity into digital tokens. Just as the last industrial revolution transformed atoms through energy into, steel things and physical things that we know, cars and things like that, buildings and things like that. And the generation before that, we gave it water into a machine called the dynamo, and what came out was electricity. And so now we have electricity go in and tokens come out. So the next layer requires energy. The layer above that is just happening now. And it's really, really important that we understand that ultimately the winners of the last industrial revolution wasn't the country that invented it. It was the country that applied it. And the United States applied steel, applied energy faster than any country. Everybody else was worried about things like labor and horses being replaced by cars and those kind of matters. But the United States we just took it and ran with it. And so the infrastructural layer above that is about the application of the technology. It's about not being afraid of it, wanting to engage it, reskilling our workforce so that we're able to apply it, encouraging people to adopt it. And so when you look at the when you look at AI through the lens that I just described, the framework that I just described, each one of the layers has its own, if you will, challenges and opportunities, and the game's a little different in each one.
On the workforce point, the press has been so focused on weaving the narrative that AI could potentially lead to mass displacement of labor and mass unemployment. Could you help paint a picture a little bit about what your prediction is for the impact of AI on the job market, but also more specifically on what you see as the potentially new categories of jobs that we're potentially not even thinking about today that could actually come into being?
Some jobs, new jobs will be created. Some jobs will be lost. Every job will be changed. Okay, so let's just break it down. It's always easy to go to one extreme from another, but I always find it helpful when you break the problem down, reason about it from its first principles. And again, in this framework that I just described, at the lowest layer, as you know, and Jacob, you're deeply integrated into venture investment, and you know what's going on in AI. And you know at the foundational layer, it's because of AI that San Francisco is back. Okay, anybody who lives in San Francisco, you'll know what I'm talking about. Just about everybody evacuated San Francisco. Now it's thriving again. It's all because of AI. And AI creates a new type of job, and the fundamental reason is because it's software development, but done in a different way. We've changed every layer of the technology as a result of AI. What used to be human-coded software running on CPUs are now machine learning-generated software running on GPUs. And so every single layer, the tooling of it, the compilers of it, the methodology of it, the way you collect data, curate data, use AI to guardrails, use AI to teach, use AI to keep the AI safe. All of that technology is being invented right now, and it creates tons of jobs. At the next layer, this is where the giant opportunity is. Remember, I just said that we're going to create a new type of factory, and this factory has electricity come in, and it generates tokens out. A 1 gigawatt factory, let me just put it, 1 gigawatt factory, and we're in the horizon building something like 7, 8, 10 gigawatts of AI factories. 1 gigawatt factory is $60 billion. $60 billion for 1 gigawatt. 100 megawatt factories is pretty commodity now, it's pretty commonplace, and so you just divide that by 10. But $60 billion is the annual, one factory is the annual revenues of Boeing. And to build it, you have to finance it, creates a lot of jobs. You have to build out the site, the shell, creates a bunch of jobs, construction. You got carpenters, you got steel workers, you got masons. You got to build out that factory. $60 billion factory. This thing is gigantic. You have to have, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, plumbers, and then after that, all the low voltage stuff, all the IT and the networking. After that, operations. That entire cycle is about 3 years. A whole bunch of new trade jobs have to be created. These trade jobs, in the last computer industry, the last computing platform shift, the number one critical path for most companies' growth is software engineers. This next layer, AI factories, the number one is going to be trades, the trade craft. And I think this is terrific. Our country needs to acknowledge that trade craft is respectable work, and it's critical work, and it's necessary to build our country. And so we want to encourage trade craft, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, steel workers, the whole span of it. We're going to need a whole bunch. And then now, above that is when we can start talking about how are these AI agents going to change the work of doctors or financial service professionals or customer care. Or in our company, just as a starting point, every single software engineer is now assisted by AI assistants. And the amount of code that we check into the company is incredible. As a result, our productivity has shot up through the roof, and we're hiring more people because it enabled us to create more things that the world desires. It increases our revenues and increases our ability to hire. And so I think that layer above really wants to engage AI as early as you can. Remember, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's not AI that's going to, destroy your company. It's the company and the person who uses AI that's going to take your job. And so that's, something to internalize.
There's been such a huge amount of focus lately on bringing manufacturing back. A lot of people in the AI space have talked about the concept of how digital twins and manufacturing plants adopting digital twins could actually help enable rebooting manufacturing here. And simultaneously, the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, recently said that one of the main bottlenecks to reshoring and making the iPhone here was having a good and precise robotic arm technology. So on both counts, it really seems like AI could be an enabling technology for manufacturing and reshoring. Could you tell us a little bit more about what your prognosis is on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, manufacturing is not about low-cost labor. Advanced manufacturing today is software. The entire factory is software-driven. The entire factory is one giant robot, and it's a robot orchestrating a whole bunch of robots inside. And so these advanced factories has a lot of people in it, but it's largely technology. And so I think the first part of it is in our industry, and I'll just talk about mine, the ability for us to manufacture end-to-end from silicon to the AI supercomputers here onshore is a terrific opportunity, and I'm delighted that the administration is really encouraging and supporting the industry to onshore manufacturing. This is high quality work. It's advanced technology work. Doing it onshore is a fantastic opportunity for the country, and I'm very enthusiastic about it. We're huge proponents of it, and we're fortunate that we have partners around the world who are supporting us to do that. That's number one. Second, if we don't get good at manufacturing, we're going to leave behind a giant industry that is going to be propelled by the availability of energy. What country doesn't want to get engaged in this new industry called AI? Why would you not want to produce AI? Why would you not want to engage in one of the most advanced manufacturing? It's manufacturing. It just happens to be numbers when it's done. And just like it was electrons at the last industrial revolution, most people couldn't understand that you could create this thing through a machinery called dynamo. Now we call it, Nvidia AI supercomputers. But back then, a dynamo, what came out of it was invisible. It's electricity. Don't touch it, but it's electricity. It's electrons. And now, it's a new form of electrons. It's numbers. And so, of course, we want to engage in this new industry. And in order to do that, we have to have manufacturing onshore. Now, the thing that is absolutely the case, because manufacturing is so technology intensive, we should do it in a digital twin first. We should do it in virtual reality first. Nvidia designs the most complex systems in the world. Each one of our generation R&D, call it $20 billion, maybe more now, but call it $20 billion of R&D just to produce a family of chips. We designed those chips completely in their digital twin. They existed for months and months and months, long before we ever produced it. The moment I produced it, I know it to be perfect. I know it because we've simulated it, exhaustively, and we emulated it, and we put it into its paces. We should do the same with digital factories. These factories, large factories, we should completely create digital twins, use artificial intelligence to create these digital twins, operate it, virtual integration, integrate these magnificent structures completely digitally, operate it, optimize it, and use it for planning your output completely digitally. And in the future, every factory will have a digital twin version. In the future, and I'm hoping every human will have a digital twin version. Every car has a digital twin version. Every building has a digital twin version. Every city has a digital twin version. So this idea of digital twins is happening now, and it's all happening because of artificial intelligence.
Jensen, my last question for you is, what is your expectation on the timeline by which we live in a world where AI-enabled robots become a ubiquitous part of everyday human life?
First of all, a self-driving car is a robot. Now, it's taken us about 10 years. And now Waymo is, in cities all around the nation and is doing fantastically. And it's terrific to see the Waymos driving around in San Francisco and other cities. It took about 10 years. Robots will take less time. And the reason for that is because we can constrain the environments where the robots operate. And so the robots don't have to be as general purpose as a car. You know, once you're in San Francisco, you got to work in every street and every single condition. And so in the case of a robot, we could be a lot more constrained. From the moment that something is prototypable, fairly functional, to the time that it becomes high volume product, call it 5 years. And so we have quite high functioning robots today. And so in some 5 years time, we're going to see, you know, robots get pumped out of these factories. And every car company who makes cars today will be very good at building robots. They just have to get good at the software part of it, the AI part of it, but that technology is really, you know, fairly available.
Jensen, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Everyone.